Luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IoT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Syracuse University Whitman School of Management, New York'ta master kariyer imkanları ve bursları Anna'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Anna, the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Chernobay and I'm an associate professor of finance at the Whitman School of Management. And today I'm going to talk about my course, the MBA course on statistics that I teach here at the Whitman School of Management. And thank you for joining me. So at this point, I will share the screen and I'll go over the course, we'll do some activities, and then at the end, we'll open it for a Q&A discussion. Okay, so let me first talk about me, and then we'll talk more about the course. My name is Anna Chernobay. I'm an associate professor of finance. Here at the Whitman School of Management, I teach at the undergraduate level, also master's level and doctorate level. My teaching expertise is in business analytics, statistics, and risk management. Syracuse University is not just a teaching school, it's also a research institution. So faculty are also doing research here, which involves writing and publishing papers, books, going to scientific conferences, which is approximately half of what we do here. So my research focuses on banking, risk management, operational risk, defaults, and various applications of business statistics and probability. I'm also chairing Whitman's teaching committee. I'm a Syracuse University senator and academic director for pedagogical innovation. More about me and where I'm from. This is where I was born in Russia. Why did I put question marks there? Because my birth country changed twice since I was born. When I was born, it was USSR. Then that part of USSR where I was born became Ukraine, and then several years ago, that part of Ukraine by the Black Sea became Russia. I spent most of my younger years in Moscow. Then at the age of 7, I moved to Japan. I went there a few times and I spent a total of 10 years in Tokyo. I graduated with a degree in economics from Japanese University in Tokyo. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do speak Japanese. Then I moved for about a year and a half to England, where I got my master's in economics and finance from Warwick Business School. From there, I went to California to get another master's and a PhD in statistics and applied probability, hence teaching this course. And then I came to Syracuse, New York, where I've been in the past 15 years or so. So this is my short life story. Now let's talk about the course. So why do we need to learn data analysis? It should be self-explanatory. Nowadays, it's all about data. We are living in the age of data and technology. And now during COVID time, suddenly technology is more important than ever. And everything is done through computers. Technology has given firms and people the power to analyze data and make decisions on the basis of quantitative analysis. A large amount of data already exists and will only increase in the future. Smart, enlightened companies are seeing this expansion as a source of competitive advantage. By using quantitative methods to uncover information hidden in the data and then acting on this information, they are able to gain advantages over other companies that are not that enlightened. And this is what this course is all about. We are given a lot of data. How do we uncover some useful information from the data? How do we make some business decisions? This is an example that I always show to my students in the very first lecture, which is an introductory lecture, just like what I'm trying to do now. So this picture is a time series plot, and it shows the 6-month evolution of Apple and Coca-Cola stock returns. So this data is actually from Yahoo Finance. And then I ask students a question. Based on what you're seeing here, which of the two companies would you rather invest in, Apple or Coca-Cola? And students start raising their hands and giving different answers. A lot of them say, oh, I'm going to invest in Apple because at the end of this 6-month period, it gives me more than 30% return on my investment. But some other students say, I'm going to invest in Coca-Cola. And I tell them, how come? You're going to lose about 10% of that extra return that you would have got with Apple. And they say, well, because Apple, it seems very unstable. It moves up and down a lot, while Coca-Cola is more steady. And it's more steadily increasing over time. And that's when we start getting in the discussion. So how do you capture this volatility? What does this volatility actually mean? How do we estimate it in statistics? And some students start talking about variance, standard deviation, and we say that yes, standard deviation captures this volatility and also volatility in the stock market. In fact, when we talk about finance, and this is an application for finance, standard deviation is a very common measure of risk. It's a measure of risk. Statistics is used anywhere in business, really. Insurance industry is another industry where statistics is just the basis of how your insurance premium is determined. Have you ever thought about what goes into the computation of your insurance premium, let's say on your car? Do you all pay the same premium every month? Probably not. It all depends on what kind of car do you drive. Is it a new car, an old car, even the make of your car? Where do you drive? Are you driving typically in a congested city or somewhere in the countryside where there aren't many cars, so the possibility of getting in an accident is low? Are you living in an area that's subject to maybe hurricanes or floods? How long do you drive to your workplace or to your college? Is it just a 5-minute short drive? Is it a 1-hour drive? That all makes a difference. And of course, what kind of driver are you? What is your age? If you're in the maybe 20 to 25-year age group, then you're probably not a very safe driver compared to those in the maybe 40s and 50s who have kids and maybe even grandkids. Those are more careful drivers. So all those factors go into determining your insurance premium. Something that we talk about in this class is that so the actual monetary amount that shows how much you have to pay, the dollar amount, like $500 or $600. So that amount, interestingly, reflects how much the insurance company has to pay to you in case your car gets in an accident. So you pay the premium, but this dollar amount reflects how much the company, on average, the insurance company has to pay you in case you get in an accident. So basically, they want to break even after you pay them premium. Then we talk about things such as expected losses. We just mentioned that. Are insurance claims independent from each other? For example, if Hurricane Katrina hit and you have lots of flood-related claims to an insurance company, do you think there is just one such claim? Are there many claims? Are the claim sizes high, low? There's probably a correlation between the claim timings and the sizes. And this extra positive correlation actually increases the expected losses to the insurance company. And therefore, it increases the premium that you pay. So all of these things, as you can see, relies on different concepts of statistics and probability. And of course, I could go on and on. 4 hours, giving you different examples from business, how statistics is important there, but we only have about an hour together. So investors collect data on historical performances of stocks and bonds. Government agencies collect data on economic trends. Online advertisers collect data on the background of visitors to different websites and tailor different ads to different people. Music providers, media services providers collect data on the music or movie preferences of the customers and decide which new songs, movies to offer them. Actually, all of this that you can see on the screen right now, we see examples of real data on all of this in this class, and we analyze that data, and we use statistical analysis and quantitative analysis to make some decisions. Okay, more about this course in particular. There are different components of your course grade if you come here this fall. Something I started doing in the past year, I want students not just get to know me and not just me get to know the students, but I also want students to get to know each other better and maybe help each other form study groups to study together. So 1% of the grade is self-introduction that every student has to make and post on their, what is called, we call it Blackboard platform, where we share all the materials. Then attendance is mandatory. It's 4% of the grade, taken in every lecture, 3 absences allowed. You must participate to get full credit for attendance. Kahoot quiz. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kahoot, but it's a game-like quiz that I do in every lecture, and I allow group work for that. It's only 5% of the grade, but students find it a little bit challenging. Then we have weekly quizzes that account for about almost a third of your grade. They're weekly, take home. It's an individual work. They're timed. I give, depending on the course topic, 1 hour to 2 hours. You get 2 to 3 attempts. The highest of the 3 scores becomes your quiz grade. And at the end of the semester, I drop 1 quiz score. And then we have, of course, 2 big exams, midterm and final exams, that largely determine your course grade. Sometimes students don't get a high grade on the midterm exam, which is right in the middle of the semester, and they get discouraged and say, okay, I'm never going to get an A in this class. Should I just drop it? And here's what I do. I want every student to be inspired to work until the very last minute of the semester and not quit. So what I do is the following. If you do better on the final exam than on the midterm exam, then your original midterm exam grade gets replaced by half of your original midterm grade and half of your final exam grade. So basically you can fix your final exam grade, your midterm exam grade at the end of the semester, and suddenly get an A in the class. I've seen it happen a lot. Course enrollment over time has been increasing rather steadily. In the last approximately a year ago, I had close to 200 students. I hope this trend continues. We've seen a small dip, somewhat a dip in the last year because of COVID, but I expect there's going to be rebounds after we are back to normal, hopefully very soon. Let's have a 5-minute break. I told the organizers of this webinar that I'm going to make it interactive, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a Kahoot break. I imagine that all of you have smartphones. If you don't have a smartphone, just split the screen in half and open a web browser. Go to kahoot.it. This is the website, kahoot.it. So there you're going to be asked to enter a game pin. I'm going to provide it to you in a minute. And then after that, you're going to be asked to enter a nickname. So kahoot.it, let me give you the pin. And this is going to be our first activity for today. Okay, where is it? Can you find it? Okay, Kahoot, play. And this is what I do at the end of every lecture. Of course, the quiz questions are going to be different from what we are about to see, but you'll get the idea. Okay, the game pin is 89928. Please enter the pin and please enter a nickname. Once you see yourself here on the screen, it means you are in. Great, I can see that students are already joining. Perfect. I don't know how many students will join, so let me wait. I'll wait maybe a minute or so. The more of you play, the more fun it's going to be. Okay, we have 12. I hope you can hear music playing on the background. When I teach on campus, I make the music super loud. I allow students to work in groups if they want to, or just shout out their answers. Of course, everybody else has to either trust that this is the right answer or maybe enter their own answer. Okay, I'm going to wait maybe another 15 seconds and then let's get started. Okay, let's get started. 13 is a lucky number. Start. Approximately how many graduate students does Whitman have? You have to type your numerical answer. Of course, I don't expect you to know the exact answer, but just type whatever you think is the right answer. Okay, you have 5 seconds left. Just type anything and press submit. 1 second left. Okay, let's see what you said. 60,000. No, that's a little bit too much. Okay, so it's actually between 400 and 500, depending on whether you include doctoral students as well. Sorry, guys, none of you got it right. Next question. Okay. Let's test your knowledge of statistics. Don't worry if you don't get the answers right. It's not part of your grade yet. This is a formula to compute what? This formula computes what? 5 seconds left. Okay, many of you guessed or maybe recognized the formula. Indeed, that was the formula for standard deviation, sample standard deviation. Obviously, on real exams, I'll give you more seconds to think about it. Right now, I only gave you 10 seconds, but I just want you to get a sense of the kind of questions I may ask on real quizzes. Sample standard deviation is something to outliers, sensitive or not sensitive. 3 seconds left, just make your random pick. It's not part of your grade. Okay, it is indeed sensitive to outliers. Next, true or false? This time series data is stationary, true or false? 5 more seconds. Stationary or not stationary? This is a question from the topic on time series. Okay, this was not a stationary data because it had an increasing trend and seasonality. Okay, next question. Who is winning right now? This person is winning. This is for second and this is third. Let's see how you do in the next questions. Suppose we perform a hypothesis test to see if average number of COVID cases rose after Christmas in the USA. We do the analysis and we find p-value equals to 0.005. What conclusion should we make? Yes, we have evidence to support our hypothesis that COVID rose, or we don't have the evidence. Yes or no? The answer is indeed yes, because p-value is close to 0. Okay, so this is related to a topic on hypothesis testing. Okay, next question. Which of these examples show a correct use of Excel's concatenate command? Pick one. there is more than one answer that's correct. Pick one that you feel would give you the right answer. Of course, I understand that you may not have ever used this command. Just make a random pick. Okay, there were 3 correct answers. If you picked any one of those 3, you would get a point. Okay, let's see who is number 1 right now. Okay, still the same person. Good job. Next question. Okay, then a few questions related to this course logistics. You'll learn a little bit more about how this course is organized. Do your best to guess the correct answers. What percentile should your total course score be to earn an A or A minus in this course? 5 seconds. 1 second. You have to be in the 60th percentile and above. Basically, you have to do better than 60% of the class. If you're in the top 40% of students, you get an A or A minus. So, of course, if you're in the 90th percentile, you're definitely going to get an A. Okay. It takes me how many days to grade your weekly multi-question quizzes? Remember I mentioned that I give you quizzes every week? How many days do you think it takes me to grade them? 10 more seconds. You have to type your answer, press submit. So sometimes I get a large class of almost 200 students. How long do you think it takes me? Let's see what you said. The correct answer is 0. I create my own questions. You will never find them in any textbook. I design, I create all questions. I create them electronically and they're automatically graded. So you get instant feedback. As soon as you submit your quiz, you know how well you did. Okay. Next question. The midterm and the final exam are paper-based exams. True or false? 5 more seconds. This is false. It's not traditional exams. They're also electronic exams done on a computer. And you also get immediate feedback. You know your grade and what you got right and wrong right away. Okay, 2 more questions. Which one is the professor? If you're laughing, then you already know that I have a twin sister. She's in California. Okay, the correct answer is the one on the right. So this is me. That's my twin sister. And last but not least, did you like this Kahoot quiz and do you want to see them in NBC 638 this fall? Great, you like them. Well, another reason to come and take my class with me. Okay, let's see who the winner is. 7 out of 11 questions got right. 8 out of 11, Nita, and 9 out of 11, Niham Guneral. Sorry, don't know what that nickname means, but those are the winners. Okay, so this is how Kahoot works. And I hope you like it. And as I said, I do Kahoot quizzes every week and every class at the end of my lectures to test what we just covered in the lecture. So I want students to basically listen carefully. So now that we've had our break, let's talk more about the class. So a little bit more about you. So here's where you come into the picture. By the way, this is a picture taken by a professional photographer who came to my classroom a couple of years ago. I still remember some of the students. As you can see, it's a very diverse, very international class. Because we do a lot of Excel, everybody brings their laptop or borrows one from the business school. Okay. With data comes a lot of responsibility. You are the next generation of data scientists and quantitative analysts. You will be shaping the future of business. Your skills in data analysis will play a major role in innovation, developing new technology, and designing new algorithms for consumer analysis and market trends. Please take this job seriously. You will be held accountable and responsible for any mistakes. Talking about mistakes. There is a nice article in Excel that I like to cite in my classes. It's called Damn Excel, how the most important software application of all time is ruining the world. The popular Microsoft program has been implicated in the financial crisis, Europe's growth problems, the US's weak economic recovery, and pretty much everything else. I'm going to show you a couple of examples that were cited in this article. On Wednesday morning, that was a few years ago, in an email that went out to reporters, Harvard professors Carmen Reinhardt and Ken Rogoff copped to making an Excel error in their research paper tying high levels of government debt to low levels of growth. Their paper, titled Growth in Time of Debt, has become a powerful data point for those who argue against government spending, even to revive the economy. Congressman Paul Ryan cited it in his most recent budget and is the basis for the two professors' best-selling book, This Time is Different. All of their analysis is based on an Excel error. Barclays' purchase of Lehman Brothers. That's back in 2008. When Barclays sent over its offer to buy up Lehman Brothers in the immediate wake of the firm's September 2008 collapse, it did so with an Excel spreadsheet. The makers of the spreadsheet, which detailed Lehman's assets and what Barclays was willing to buy, hid rather than deleted nearly 200 cells. Those of you who are well familiar with Excel, you know that you can hide certain columns or rows without actually deleting them. But when a junior law associate converted the Excel file to a PDF and emailed it over to the bankruptcy court, the hidden parts of the spreadsheet reappeared. The result, along with the parts of Lehman Brothers wanted, the British bank was also forced to swallow losses on an additional 179 toxic deals it never intended to buy. Fannie Mae, we should have seen the financial crisis coming. Back in 2003, the giant mortgage guarantor made an error in an Excel spreadsheet when transitioning to a new accounting regulation. The result? An error that made Fannie look $1.3 billion more profitable than it actually was. The company was forced to later restate its results. As you can see, mistakes in Excel will not only cause you a lower grade in my course, but it can also cost you a job and lots of money to your company. Talking about Excel, we'll be doing a lot of Excel in this class. Every topic involves Excel. Something about Excel, if you've never been exposed to Excel, if you've never done Excel in the past, or you've done very little with it, don't worry. I don't require any prior knowledge of Excel. I basically teach everything from scratch, so no worries about that. So you will see a lot of real business data, occasionally non-business data as well. You will learn to answer important economic questions using Excel. By the end of the semester, the amount of Excel that you will learn from my class will be enough to get a formal Excel certification and more. By the way, Whitman School of Management provides free Excel certification. Basically, it pays for the Excel certification exam that you can take directly at Whitman. We pay for our students. We want them to get Excel certified because it will really help you get a job. In addition to basic Excel, we'll also use two add-ins that have a lot of functionality related to data analysis and statistics. One is Data Analysis Toolpack. It already comes with Excel. We just need to activate it. Another one is Stat Tools. Okay, let's talk about course topics. How much time do I have? I think we have enough time. Okay, so there are 10 big topics in this semester. The first one we begin with is data description and visualization. Okay, lots of things we do here. For example, we look at this data set on supermarket transactions, different characteristics of customers, what they purchased, where they purchased, how much they purchased. We create histograms, bar charts, pie charts for different types of variables. And variables can be quantitative or categorical, so depending on what they are, we use different techniques, different charts and tools. We also look at pivot tables, something very, very important. We create numerical summary statistics, and we even create 3D maps like this. Okay, all of these things we learn in the first topic. Second topic, cleaning raw data, spreadsheet analytics. I have it labeled as new because I introduced it to the course a couple of years ago. Students often approach me and say, oh, professor, I just got invited to a technical interview at this and that job, Amazon or whatever. And they sent me this Excel spreadsheet and they gave me 2 days to answer a few questions. And one of them is go through the data, plot it, chart it, any way you like, find some interesting patterns and trends in the data and report on your findings, something that would help us become more profitable. Very open-ended. So they have to figure out what to do with the data, and often the data is in a very raw format, so there are some mistakes in data coding, maybe some missing errors, so you have to really work with the data before you can even do anything with it. So I created this new topic where we look at different techniques to clean the data, make the data ready for the analysis. How do we create different variables from the data? How do we use data validation tool, filter tool to sort and clean the data? We learn different date commands, different ways you can use if or and command, left, right, mid command. These are commands for textual data. Concatenate command, and command, data parsing, merging different data sets. If you have data from different Excel spreadsheets, you want to combine it together. What are the ways to do that? VLOOKUP, index, match, search, you name it. And we look at all sorts of applications from different business areas, such as consumer sentiment analysis. Actually, my students right now are working on their quiz, where one of the questions is about consumer sentiment analysis. So they're looking through data on online customer reviews from Amazon. I think it's data on customers who purchase different cameras, and they have to, quote unquote, read through those textual reviews and flag those that mention certain words or expressions. And you can do all that in Excel. Then analysis of climate data. So students go online to the internet, to the sources that I provide. They have to download Excel data, then they have to merge the data and then answer some questions. Of course, I provide some very specific guidelines and all the steps, so it's not as time-consuming as it may sound. Conservatism scores of US senators, purchase orders, Starbucks branches around the world. All of these are real data, of course. In the next topic that we spent about 4 weeks on, this is probably the biggest topic of the semester, we look at association, correlation, and regression. Linear regression, non-linear regressions, logistic regressions for categorical dependent variables. So lots of things that we do here. I'll just show you a few things. We start easy, look at types of relationships. We also talk about some dangers of correlation and association. So here's an example where we have 96% correlation between per capita consumption of mozzarella cheese and the number of civil engineering doctorates awarded. Well, clearly the two have nothing to do with each other, but they are highly correlated. So that's when students realize, oh, high correlation doesn't necessarily mean these two variables are related. correlation doesn't necessarily imply causation. So we talk about when this happens. And then we move on to regression analysis, simple regression and multivariate regressions, regressions with dummy variables and interaction variables to capture effects like what's pictured here, nonlinear regressions such as logistic regression. Here we talk about this data analyzes bankruptcies, and we're trying to use financial ratios to predict whether or not a company is gonna file for bankruptcy. Other applications we do in this big topic, gender gap in salaries. Is there a gender gap? We look at real data. Bankruptcy prediction, I just said it. We look at data from Spotify, and we are trying to predict if a listener will like a particular song. McDonald's menu prices, house price prediction, university alumni donations, explaining votes to impeach President Clinton, predicting which customers would buy a certain product. Lots of interesting applications. The next one, probability and Bayes formula. So we look at basic probability rules, conditional probability, complementary probabilities, and lots of applications. Computing the probability, Bank of America will recall a certain customer's credit card. Probability, a taxpayer files fraudulent taxes with the IRS. Reporting rates of violent, non-violent crimes. Probability, a restaurant runs out of steaks. You can see that statistics and probability really is everywhere. I've already mentioned so many different applications, and you would think, okay, what does Spotify possibly have to do with statistics? And you'll see in this class the kind of cool things we can do and analyze when we look at Spotify songs data. Then, so we've already moved from samples to populations when we talk about probability. Then we start talking about quantitative variables and computing their mean, variance, covariance, correlation between quantitative variables, weighted sums. Lots of applications here, such as applications to investment portfolios. So here you're an investor and you plan to invest in General Motors stock and in gold. So we know what the economic outcomes are likely to be next year with what probabilities. And we are thinking of investing 40% of our money in GM, 60% in gold. What's the expected value and variance of your portfolio's return next year? This is an example from a homework that students have to complete from insurance. So we need to figure out the insurance premium that you would have to pay on collision insurance. Even examples from IKEA, different salespersons. One of them sells washers, the other one sells dryers. So we need to look at the data and see if there's any correlation between how many dryers and washers are being sold, the averages, standard deviations, so on and so forth. Okay. Normal distribution. Typically, that's the last topic we do before the midterm exam. And as you know, normal distribution looks as a bell-shaped curve. One application we look at is Ford company's weekly demands for its cars, and then we are trying to answer some questions about the annual demand and what is the likely total annual demand on Ford cars, that there's only 1% chance that Ford will sell less than this amount. All of this relies on the normal distribution. Okay, another application that's kind of interesting is housing prices in Syracuse and San Francisco. So a customer wants to decide, wants to move from Syracuse to San Francisco, and she needs to make some decisions about houses and what kind of house to buy. And some analysis here depends on the normal distribution. Some of the questions I just showed you are from actual quizzes and actual exams. Okay. After the midterm exam, we talk about central limit theorem and sampling distributions. The essence of this topic is to typically when we have data, like the kind of data I've mentioned before in Excel, it's a data from a small sample, just a few data points. And by a few, I don't mean necessarily 4 or 5, it can be 100 or 1,000 or even 20,000. That's still a sample, because the actual population from which we had collected that data may be very, very large. So in this topic, we want to essentially generalize the results that we found from a sample, a small subset from the data, and kind of project it, make inference about the total population of interest. And typically, we are interested in, for example, population mean. For example, I have data on 20 MBA students, and I know their salaries before they started in the MBA program. So what kind of conclusion can I make about the average salaries of all MBA students in the United States? See how I'm trying to use a sample of just a few observed data points and try to make inference about the whole thing. So clearly, we are never going to get the results with 100% accuracy. So we're going to be talking about error, standard error, sampling error here. Some applications, so just like I said, how accurately can we estimate the population mean? Some applications will be in auto insurance, health insurance. There is an elevator problem that I use, so we need to decide what should be the maximum number of passengers allowed to enter a certain elevator. A very interesting problem. Home Depot revenue. Then, related topic to central limit theorem is confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. Here's an example of inference about two populations, and specifically, so we have two samples collected from two populations. Maybe this is MBA salaries before starting MBA degree, and these are MBA salaries after. So we have a small subset of data, so we know certain students, maybe 20 students, their salaries before and after. So what can we conclude about the two populations as a whole, and specifically, how do the population means compare? Can we make a conclusion that MBA degree is worth it, that the salaries after getting the MBA degree are on average significantly higher than before? So we answer these types of questions. We also answer questions such as, would you conclude that female employees at a particular bank are underpaid? So here the two populations are female salaries and male salaries. Here we have different types of advertisement budget, TV, newspaper, radio, and you make some analysis on that. And here, something that's different from another example is that here we have different markets where a certain product is sold. So here we are dealing with matched pairs data, not random data, but matched, not independent data, but matched pairs data. And that makes some of the analysis a little bit different. We even use real data from the United States on mass shootings, and we try to analyze it and make some decisions. Have mass shootings actually been linked to gun usage, or maybe guns have nothing to do with that? So we try to even shed light on this kind of important questions nowadays. Gas prices, have they increased, decreased, compare different markets. MBA salaries before and after MBA degree, I've already mentioned this example. Time series and forecasting, a very important topic, and we learned some important techniques on looking at time series data. Time series data is data that evolves over time. And the way different data evolves over time can follow very different patterns, as you can see. We can have very jagged, volatile data. We can get a smooth data, but that increases, then has a downward trend, increasing trend again. We can have data that has a clear cyclicality pattern in it. So what are the techniques that would apply to all of them? Is there a common methodology to approach all of this time series data? So yes and no, you have to look at the data and then decide which methodology to use. This is an example from a recent final exam. So I give students real data on US gasoline prices and inflation, and we try to build some time series models for each of these data and kind of then combine them together and see if we can predict price per gallon based on inflation rate so far and any kind of other trends that appear in price per gallon. So we're trying to make some forecasts here. Another interesting data from the US housing starts. So this is how many houses are being built. So clearly, construction usually takes place in summer when it's nice and sunny and dry. That's why we see seasonality in the data. So the peaks are in summer months. And then notice that on top of seasonality, there is an increasing trend in the data. And then suddenly, right before the financial crisis hits, we have a sudden drop that persists. So how do you model that all in a single model, in a single regression model? How do you capture all of these effects that are going on here? Another example, I ask students to go to this website from the Federal Reserve Bank and download data from unemployment rate. And then we look at the pattern, we build a model, and we try to forecast what the unemployment rate is going to be in the next few months. Netflix revenue. Okay, and the last topic of the semester is optimization. It's also a new topic that I relatively recently added to the course. We look at linear, nonlinear optimization, unconstrained, and constrained. In Excel, we use the Solver tool. The biggest example we cover here is investment portfolio optimization. So I come to the classroom, I tell students, guys, I don't have any PowerPoints for you today, nothing to share with you. But here's a setup. I ask for a volunteer and I say, imagine that your dad tells you, let's say, Michael, you are a business school student. I'm going to give you $10,000 and I want you to invest it in the stock market. You can decide which companies to invest in and in which proportions and do so wisely. So I ask students, tell me your 3 favorite companies that are publicly traded. And we're going to build a portfolio and decide how much to invest in each of these companies. So we go to Yahoo Finance and students start arguing which company to pick. So usually Google is one of them, maybe Amazon and Starbucks. These are all popular choices. Then we enter all the data into Excel. We do some calculations, compute returns, portfolio returns with certain weights. We compute the mean, standard deviation, and then we have some constraints. Like, for example, the weights cannot exceed 1 altogether. And then we say, okay, I want an equally weighted portfolio. And then we figure out this portfolio's return and standard deviation. Remember, I mentioned earlier today that standard deviation captures risk. So we don't want the risk to be too high. And then we say, okay, instead of just holding everything with equal weights, maybe I just want to maximize my expected return. I just want to get the maximum amount of money. And then it makes 0 sense to invest in Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts because, look, the mean is the highest for McDonald's. So basically all you have to do is put all your eggs into one basket. But then the problem is that your standard deviation, your risk, is going to be fully driven by McDonald's. So if McDonald's crashes, then that's it. That's what happens to your money. So maybe it's not a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket. Maybe we want to diversify. So maybe we want to minimize risk, but not too much. We still want the expected return on our portfolio maybe to exceed the market return, like S&P 500 index return. So we come up with these reasonable constraints that we want to meet, and then we use Solver to essentially give us what the optimal proportions are going to be. So all of these proportions are going to change depending on what our constraints are. Okay, typically at this point I would say, do you have any questions? So let me... so this is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. So let me stop sharing the screen. And honestly, I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. We have like 10 minutes for the Q&A session.
Yes.
So we had a few questions, but some of it Shreya already answered.
Mm-hmm. So I can see, okay, so should I just go through the questions?
Yes.
Yes.
And if you could just answer the not answered ones, that would be great.
Okay. How do you collect data questions for exams? Is this all public information? Yes, I will not share with class data sets that are not publicly available, confidential or restricted data. I'm not allowed to share. So obviously, all the data that is used for exams and quizzes and homeworks is publicly available data. Some of them are harder to find than others. I've accumulated some interesting data sets over the years, and I have my own sources from which I collect data. So yes, it's publicly available data from a variety of sources. When do we use JMP for data analysis? Oh, I don't use JMP for data analysis. This course only uses Excel. The main purpose of this course is really statistics and data analysis, but over the years, I've made this course very applied. So there is a heavy emphasis on applications rather than the theory side and the math side. We do the derivations and everything, but there is not the focus is primarily on data analysis, on statistics, probability, rather than a software. So Excel is used as a tool to do the analysis. But if you know what kind of analysis to do, you can use any other software after you graduate, right? It doesn't have to be Excel. Excel is just a tool. Some other questions, let me see. Did I answer all of them or not? I can see some about students from Turkey. I've had quite a few Turkish students in the past, and they've been excellent students. Yes, I don't know if I've missed any. How do we generate questions, topics used for data collection? In this course, if I don't have a very large class, in the past, what I used to do is I used to also have a group project where I form students, form groups among students, and I ask them to collect their own data and follow sort of general guidelines to do data analysis. But I would suggest some resources, but you can find your own data. But I give you lots of resources from where you can look for data. But in general, like the way I'm teaching right now, I don't ask students to collect any data per se. I either provide you the ready data sets or I give you the links on websites where I ask you to go to and actually download the data. So you would not have to look for data in this class. Not right now. Yes, I think I've answered all of them, right? Let me see, not answered. I think I've answered them, right?
Yes, Anna, I think you covered all of the questions. So,
and if any students get any other questions, you can find me online on Whitman School of Management website. My email address is annac@syr.edu, but you'll find it online. Feel free to email me anytime, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Could you please also share your email in the chat box, please, Anna?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So
I just put it in there.
Yes.
My email address.
I just put it in there, Anna. You don't have to.
Yeah, let me see. Yes, you already did. Yeah, it's the same. It's correct. Yes, so feel free to email me if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Anna, for your great presentation, and Shiri also, you answered the questions. We believe it was an informative webinar for the attendees. Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Syracuse University ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için Ana'nın ve Şirin'in paylaşmış olduğu mail adresinden iletişime geçebilir ve linkleri inceleyebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda sizi 7'deki webinarımıza da davet etmek isteriz. Thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you in IFT Talks. Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up?
Teşekkür ederim and güle güle. That's pretty much all I know in Turkish.
That's a great pronunciation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you and have a nice day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.